I couldn't wait. It's Romania Black, and I couldn't wait. No, I'm literally leaving for my trip this week. I know I talked about it last week, but I'm literally leaving for my trip this week. So it's gonna be a week and a half before I can watch episode 5 of Chihayafuru, and I'm kind of addicted to this show. I'm kind of addicted already. Is that a problem? But man, the first 3 episodes, getting the whole flashback, getting the middle school competition, the karate competition, Chihaya coming through like the young queen and up and coming queen that she is. Obviously seeing the split up. Arata has to go back to Fukui because his grandfather is sick. We're gonna get to hopefully see like what happened eventually. You know, I feel like we're gonna see Arata in high school. The question is like, how soon are we gonna see Arata? Are we gonna see Arata like at the end of season 1? Are we going to see him midway through? Or are they going to show him to us like this episode? Like, I don't know. They could do a lot of things with Arata, so I don't know what they're going to do with his character. But we know he went back to Fukui to stay with his grandfather because he was sick. We don't know if he kept playing karate. I get the impression maybe he didn't, but we're going to find out at some point. And then Chihaya has been trying to like, she's kept up her love of karate. She wants to keep on playing. And so she's been trying to find people that will play with her. And now Taichi, her childhood friend, who went off to a middle school to play soccer, is now back at the high school she is at. But he doesn't want to play karate because he thinks that that's for little kids and that he's, you know, above it. So I'm really excited about this episode. And I'm really excited because I don't know where we're going to go. Like last week, we knew we were probably going to stay in the flashback. But now that it's over and we're back to potentially like the current timeline, I'm so glad we have like this full 3 episodes of backstory to build up these characters, and now we've skipped like 2 or 3 years and we're going into the current timeline with them in high school, and I'm so excited about it. So very, very, very excited indeed. So I want to give a quick shout out before we begin over to our Patreon to thank our philanthropy tier for being so supportive this week in the shows that I have on the channel. So thank you very much to Alex Cornejo, Anime Annie, Be Happy, Bryant Reed, Dana, Damage3245, Destiny Marie, Danger Zone, Devorin, Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, as well as Elfreya, Linden, Liam Polzel, Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, Nago, Nicholas, Adam Perez, Alexandra Q, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Trails, Translucent Men, and Bisa. Thank you all so much, as well as thank you all on Patreon and thank you all on YouTube for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, sure. I'm ready to start this. We've spent enough time. I hope y'all are excited, but I'm not gonna waste any more time. We are gonna dive into episode 4 of Chihayafuru, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's a go. Oh, you thought Whiteboard Coon wasn't going to show up for a while? Think again. Holy cow. Whoa. So yeah, I brought Whiteboard Coon back out in this, as my dog's like, why aren't you playing with me? Because we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about in this episode, and okay. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So there's a lot going on in this episode. I wondered if Arata was going to end up playing karate or if he gave it up, because the last episode gave a lot of red flags that I was like, ooh, this might not mean, because when they all go their separate ways, we're going to see how this all shakes out. And my dog's like, throw this toy while you talk about karate. So, all right. So we know this is a love triangle for the ages, right? Because this episode made me go, oh, I could support Taichi and Chihaya. Actually, he's come a long way since I wondered that in episode 1. In episode 1, when we saw Taichi being a little snot bag, I was like, is he just being like the little stereotypical, like little bully kid in grade school that gets a heart and grows up to be a soft and nice guy after he's in high school? And Arata's the little angel bean who's been put through trauma and hell and has hardened himself because of it? The answer is yes. And Chihaya, as someone put it in the comments, is Karate Luffy. I was like, She really is. She is not going to let you not play karate, because who doesn't play karate? What are you, a loser? So, yes. So, here's the thing. Before we dive into this episode was so good and I loved it. I freaking love Chihaya. She is such a great protagonist. She's adorable. I love her so much. Taichi grew on me so much in this episode alone. I was like, all right, Taichi. All right, you got so much potential. That was what I was waiting for. I'm like, you've got so much potential. And this is going to be such a thing. So, when we had at the very beginning, them all getting away and Arata moving and going back home and saying goodbye, and him being by himself, and she's like, the next time we'll meet is at nationals, and he's like, sure, and she's like, I'm gonna be a class A player and you won't beat me next time, and Taichi's like, I'm gonna be a master and I'm gonna be the queen. That's so interesting. And I feel like, you know what, we're gonna talk about this. I feel like Taichi could become the master, but I don't think he's gonna hog all the glory. I feel like that whole thing with the glasses is gonna come full circle by the end of this. I don't know if it's going to be this season. I don't know if it's going to be season 3. I don't know if it's going to be beyond that. But the whole thing with the glasses, I think, is going to come full circle. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Arata's like, sure, I guess I could do that too. And as they're leaving, she's like, promise, we'll meet again when we're Class A players. And he says yes, but there is like a melancholy to that where it's, did he really think they were all going to become Class A players? Or did he think that, you know, how often has Arata moved? Did he just think that these were just friends and he was never going to see them again? And so it was like, yeah, sure, we'll see each other again or whatever. But I'm wondering if in this series, if we're going to actually get Arata shown in the series until the very end. Like, she's not going to face him until he shows up at nationals. I don't know. A whirlwind of flower petals descend. Yeah. The whirlwind of flower petals descending. I have a feeling that some of y'all, as you get into this episodes, are going to talk about the poems, which is fine because there's not really any spoilers with that. It's all symbolism. But I feel like the flowers petal descending reminds me of like the cherry blossoms, like the end of spring. So it's like the end of a season. It's a transitional period, which ties back to this episode. One thing I really like about Chihaya, one thing that I really like about her is she reminds me a lot of myself, in the sense of, if we talk about like how she looks, because she has like the pink lips and the long luscious hair and she's very pretty. I mean, her sister's a model, it's genetics, but I like the way that Chihaya is able to express her femininity while also retaining her identity. And the reason I say that is because when they showed her in like grade school, she's very like tomboyish. She's got like the bowl haircut and she wears the shorts all the time. She doesn't really dress quote unquote like societally traditionally AFAB feminine, right? But then she does when she's in high school. And I kind of love that because I can relate so much to that. When I was in grade school, I looked like a prepubescent boy. I had a big bowl cut. I had giant Coke bottle glasses. I wore like an NBA like fluffy coat because you had to have one of those to be cool. I wore like jorts all the time and like tank tops, and like I just looked like a young boy. I did not dress girly at all growing up. I never did. And that just wasn't my style. And then when I got into high school, I did want to dress more feminine. And that wasn't me like changing my identity. It's just like an exploration and expression. And so I love that they don't change who Chihaya is. She's still aggressive. She's still bopping Taichi upside the head. Like, she's still doing all of that, but she's able to like be a girl, and that's kind of cool. I like that. I like that, you know, she can be a tough, aggressive female karate player, and the guys in the match are kind of sexist, and they're like, oh, that girl's gonna play, she's not gonna get any cards against this guy, and then she ends up beating him. So I love that. I love that the way you dress and present yourself aesthetically has no inclination to the expertise and ability you have as a karate player. And I'm like, work, girl. Love it. Love it. I like Taichi says, are you daydreaming or something? She's like, oh, you know, just having a 3-episode flashback. It's fine. So she asks if he's been in touch with Arata. And of course, I love Taichi's like, my arch nemesis. I love that he's like, no, he is not. And I fully believe that. I do not believe that Taichi's been in touch with him. I think Taichi could care less about him. But she's like, oh, okay. Here's the thing. She's not really been in touch with him either. And it's been like 3 years because they're, 15 now. So it's been like at least 3 years. And the moment she says he must be incredibly strong by now, do you think we'll see him at the Jingu tournament? The moment she said that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, because back in episode 1, she said he didn't show up at nationals the year prior. And then when she said that, I was like, that to me is a sign that he's not playing, because otherwise he's good enough. Why wouldn't he be there? Like, do you want to play against him at the national tournament? And she's like, well, of course. She's like, we made a promise. Don't you remember, Taichi? And so he's like, well, what class are you in right now? And she says she's in class B. He says it'll take her 3 years to make class A. And she's like, challenge accepted. 3 years, more like 1 episode. I love that there is some like connection, because I just watched March Comes In Like a Lion before Ping Pong, which this series replaced, and that deals with shogi, and it has a class system that's kind of like this. And I don't know if chess has a class system as well. Maybe it does, but I like that. I like that that's a way of like determining rank. So she's class A. And I get why Arata, we're going to talk about Arata. I get why he would have been mad hearing about that, because if you aren't, I don't think he's able to play karate, and I don't think maybe he wants to play karate, but we'll get into that at the end of the episode. But to hear, you know, people that you knew and care about doing well, even though it's such good news and he's probably proud of her, it probably felt like an ice dagger to the heart of the thing that you loved that's connected to the person you loved that you can't do anymore or won't be able to do or don't have interest in anymore, to see people that you inspired going on and doing things without you, even though you should feel happy for them. I'm sure he felt horrible about it. And he's like, I don't want to, he's like, it probably is killing him that he's not part of that world with her. And so he's like, I don't want to hear about it if I can't be part of that world with you. And we'll talk about it at the end of the episode. I'm just like, oh my God, this love triangle is going to be the most love triangle of love triangles, right? So Taichi's go-to is if it's hard or if it's risky and there's no, we'll put the old, I mean, I'm not sure if this is true of Taichi now because he's developing as we speak throughout the episodes, but his thing was always play it safe. His thing was always play it safe and don't gamble, even though that was the role that Arata gave him in the series, in the episode a few episodes ago. And then Chihaya is literally fortune favors the bold. She is literally like, I will go all out. I will do this. Whereas Arata was very much the strategist and had all of the ideas, right? So it'll be interesting to see where their styles kind of go to. But yeah, Taichi's like, you know, you could just give up and do track. And the full circle moment where we find out why she was doing track. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it so much. And we could tie it to him playing soccer too. But I love that she's violent against him. She's like, whatever. She's like, I've not changed. I love that about Chihaya. So Takun, the girlfriend, shows up. You know, the girlfriend who has a very similar haircut as elementary school Chihaya. Sure beans. Uh-huh. Projecting any, sir? Maybe. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for characters like this, like in her situation. She seems like she's a nice character and she seems lovely and she's genuinely enamored. Like she has the blushy face around him. Like she genuinely wants to date him. And he's head over heels for Chihaya. And here's the thing. Chihaya has no clue. Chihaya friend zones Taichi so hard in this episode. And he's just like, I felt bad for Taichi in this episode. I really did. Because he kind of grew on me in this episode. And I felt so bad for him. She friend zoned him so hard. And I was like, oh no. I felt so bad for him because he clearly loves her. He clearly has a crush on her. And I'm going to explain all of this. Don't you worry. But I felt so bad for him, and I feel bad for the girlfriend. And here's the thing. There is a little part of Chihaya that at first I think you could think, oh, well, she's jealous of the girlfriend. But here's the thing. What she's really jealous of is the fact that Taichi is spending his time with a girlfriend instead of helping her play karate. She's like, look, we have to hurry up. We've got to get better at karate so you and I can play and get Arata over here and we can be best friends in a polygamous threesome forever. And Taichi's like, I don't want to share you. But she wants to monopolize Taichi's time to play karate. So he's like, well, you're not gonna have time to help me if you have a girlfriend. It felt very Run with the Wind. There's a subplot line in Run with the Wind that reminds me of this. But if you wanted to argue and say that Chihaya was a little bit jealous of the girlfriend because of the Takun thing, and she wanted to tell Arata about it, I totally am with you. I fully am on board. I think it was more along the lines that she was mad that he wasn't going to be able to devote enough time to karate because of the girlfriend. But if you told me that she was a little bit jealous of her, I would not blame you. And of course, I like the girl's like, who's she, Takun? And he's like, oh, shit. He's like, well, you'd be surprised. Because she's like, I'll make him pay for getting himself a girlfriend. Like, I don't think she was saying that out of, I want to be his girlfriend instead. She's literally saying it like, how dare he get a girlfriend and he won't have time to play karate with us. The asexual dilemma. So she gets the phone out and she's like, I need to tell somebody, anybody. She was calling Taichi Takun. And that's when she sees Wataya Arata home in Fukui. So she has his home number saved in her phone. A couple things from that interaction. One, when she's like, I need to tell anybody. I don't know if her only stumbling across Arata's number was that she wanted to tell Arata because the three of them were the closest friends, or if it's saying she doesn't have any close friends that she feels she can tell. If that's the case, I feel sorry for Chihaya. And I hope that Taichi can become a friend to her so that she can tell them, but she was also talking about him, so she couldn't tell him about himself. But still, I hope that her and Taichi can become friends because that's really sad if she was, didn't have anybody else to talk to. But a part of me is like, I understand why she didn't want to call Arata because she's like, we made a promise. She's being Luffy from One Piece. She's like, we made a promise that I wouldn't call you and talk to you until I got to class A, until I'm strong enough to face you. She's like, and I don't want to break our promise. Chihaya is a promise keeper. If girl says she's going to do something, she's going to do something. And she's also like, if you dare me, challenge accepted. So I admire that about Chihaya. I love that part about her. But she resists calling him because she doesn't want to do it until it's time. Now, the problem with that is, the problem with her waiting until now to call him is that, on the one hand, there's a question in this series of how serious they take each other. Because Taichi, whenever he came in episode 1 and was like, oh, you're still playing karate? You're still doing that? You're still serious about that? And she's like, of course. It's like, why would you even ask? So in that sense, when we find out, though, in this episode, though, is that Taichi was actually very serious about it. He just underestimates himself and doesn't think he can beat Arata, which, guess what, bud? Maybe you can. There's a chance. So we're gonna talk about that. I have Whiteboard Kun. I know y'all are biting at the bit, but Whiteboard Kun's got that stuff ready to talk about, but we're not ready yet. But I feel like Arata, we don't know yet as the audience if Arata felt betrayed by the fact that she never talked to him, or if he didn't realize how serious she was about all of that, or everything. Like, we don't know what's going through Arata's head right now, except he just seems very, very sad. And I feel really bad for him. I'm like, ugh. But we'll get into it. So we go back to the hall. Taichi showing up with this, like, bandana over his head and the sunglasses. I will give Taichi credit. Compared to other sports anime, such as Haikyuu and Kuroko's Basketball, his disguise is actually pretty legit. It's not as noticeable as Midorima or Oikawa, so his disguise is pretty legit. I'll give them that. Compared to how he was as a grade schooler, I wouldn't have known who he was. Unfortunately, the old man that trained them all, he recognized him instantly. And man, what a 2007 world we live in right now, because he's like, oh, you recognize me. He's like, oh, you've grown so big, eyebrows. The phrase, are your armpits and pubes all bushy now, will not be out of my head for quite some time. I was like, oh, old man, Harada, Dr. Harada. Maybe he thinks he can get away with saying that because he's a doctor and he's being clinical, but what a different time. I am glad that's the only weird part with him. He's just giving him a hard time. And then the rest of the episode, he's absolutely adorable. I was like, Dr. Harada, don't be getting creepy on us. And luckily that does not happen. But I like the lady beside is like, we're trying to study, sir. It's great. It's great. So yeah, he's here to see Chihaya. Of course he is. I love Chihaya's heart shirt. It reminded me of Legend of Zelda, where Zelda has like the different hearts, like the lives reminded me of that. So they have to win the entire thing to advance to the next class. And there are many strong players who spend years in Class B. Again, reminds me a lot of March Comes In Like a Lion because they can't get enough wins. But yeah, I love that Taichi's sitting there watching her and he reminisces on what he told her, being like, it's going to take you a while to make first class or Class A. She's like, I'll show you, sir. Taichi always is the first to doubt, and Chihaya is the first to say, no, we can. That dynamic is so good. I also thought it was crazy how when Dr. Harada handed Taichi a coffee, it just struck me like, oh yeah, these are high schoolers. They can drink coffee, and there's been time passing, and now they're old enough to get a caffeine addiction. And he's like, well, there's not a karate club at the high school that you're there, so you should come practice here since there's not one. And he's like, oh no. He says, I'm thinking about joining the soccer team. And my favorite is Dr. Harada is like, well, you don't want to turn into a two-timing bastard, or you'll never become a master. He's so crass, but I kind of love this, where he's just looking at Taichi like, oh, you're going to give up? You're going to give up on your dream and Chihaya's? You're here supporting her, but you're not going to assist her? Oh, I see how it is, you two-timing bastard. Which I wonder if Taichi, based on his expression as a reaction, is like, oh shit, I have a girlfriend, what am I doing? Taichi is so emotional. He's such an empath, and I love that about him. He really takes things to heart, right? But that's the thing. Him and Arata both take things somewhat to heart. Arata, I think, is very emotional on the inside, but he just doesn't show it. Taichi shows all of the emotions all of the time, and they're both emotional men. They just handle it in different ways, and I absolutely love it. So he's like, well, my goal is not to become a master. And that's when he says, I did play karate in middle school. It was a small club, and I practiced and became better little by little, but deep down I always knew that I could spend my entire youth on karate and never be as good as Arata. That breaks my heart, because I'm like, no, you could. So we might as well talk about this. Because it's going to get brought up later as well, but we might as well talk about Whiteboard Kun. So, right, we have our three main characters, right? And Arata was playing now these are all based on what I know about the series so far. These are all subject to change. As we go, I'm sure we'll find out new information that will alter. Because just finding out in this episode that Taichi did play karate in middle school, he didn't just give up. He did play, but he got discouraged because he never thought he'd be good enough to beat Arata. Just that knowledge alone changes so much. Just that one nugget of information. So this is all subject to change. It probably will change as we go. But him saying, we have Arata, who was playing because he was inspired by his grandfather, and he wants to become a master like him. Well, we know the grandfather was not in great health. So my theory is the grandpa died. So the source of Arata's inspiration was suddenly no longer there to guide him. And he felt really sad about that. Then we couple that with the fact that we know Arata's from a poor family. We know that Arata's dad, from the way that he was just put in that one scene, is probably blue-collar working class. So my theory is, when Arata moved and his grandfather died, his biological dad was like, look, you don't have time to play karate because you've got to support this family. And your grandfather, you were just doing it for him. He's gone now. You need to focus on reality. And the reality is we need to make a living to survive. So you don't have time to play karate. And that's what I think happened. I think that it was a combination of him not being around his friends, he probably didn't have friends that he could play karate with where he moved to. So there was that isolation, plus losing his main source of inspiration, which was his grandfather, plus having to face the reality that his family needs him to help make money. I'm sure all of that combined into him believing that there's no chance he could be a master, that it was a dream versus reality, and he has to face reality, and this is just the way it has to be. And that's why I think he'd stop playing. So you have that. Then you have Taichi, who Taichi was playing karate before he met Arata and before he found out that Chihaya was influenced. Taichi was playing karate before, kind of like Arata was, but he was playing it because he thought it was an easy sport to win at. And his parents just wanted him to win at something. So he thought it was easy and he could just get like some participation wins, right? And get good enough to be okay at it, right? To be the big fish in the little pond. You know, he didn't have any aspirations to go be a master like Arata did, but he just wanted to be good enough to get some notoriety, right? But then he ended up staying and playing because of Chihaya and Arata, right? So he does not have family support. His family, much like Arata's seemingly, does not support him playing karate. So he's like, okay. And he thinks he'll never beat Arata, which we're going to talk about that. And then he likes Chihaya. So that's keeping him in the game, right? But I do genuinely think that part of Taichi's journey is going to be coming to the realization that he does really like karate. He wasn't just playing it because of the easy win. He wasn't just playing it to win over Chihaya. He truly enjoys it. I think that that conversation is going to happen at some point. Then we have Chihaya. She started out supporting her sister, but it wasn't a dream that was for herself. And then Arata inspired her to pursue karate as her own dream for herself. She did not have much family support. Her mom kind of supported her a few episodes ago, but the sister did not. Arata quitting, Taichi being roped in. She literally is all in on karate now, and that's her dream. So this whole love triangle is going to come up here in a little bit. We're going to come back to Whiteboard Coon, but I want to get a little further on in this episode. But I'm liking the setup and the comparison and contrasting we have with these characters. It's really neat. So yeah. And Chihaya, she's so aggressive. I love the teacher. I love Dr. Harada taught her to be like loud and aggressive. I love it. One of the girls that's on the team that I coach, she did a speech last year. She's a sophomore now. So she did a speech her freshman year. And it was all about women being extra and being too much. It was about the situation of women being too much. That there are a lot of women in society that if you're loud and if you're excited, enthusiastic, people can label you as just being like too extra or too much, and you need to quiet down and calm down. And her whole thing was about how with her personality, she's like, no, that's who I am. She's like, I'm loud and I'm excited and I'm hyper and I'm chaotic and I love it. And that's just who I am. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with being that way and being a little aggressive. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And so her whole speech was about that. And it was really, really good. And so Chihaya reminds me a lot of her, that she's just so optimistic and gung-ho, and she doesn't give a shit about what anybody thinks about her. I love that about Chihaya. She doesn't care what people think. She's going to say what she wants. She's going to be how she is. I love it. And Taichi's like, is she really that obsessed with winning? And Harada's like, yeah, when she entered middle school, she played constantly. Like you can see her being inspired by Arata, and even down to her like growing her hair out. I love it. And she has like the sweat beating off of her and she's all by herself. And at first I thought when she said she was playing track, she told her friend she just did track for the social aspect. She said that in episode 1. She just did track to be social. And so when you saw her all by herself in the hall, just playing with nobody around her, and then her Dr. Harada's like, well, why are you doing track? And I love that we're seeing her like growing up and in middle school with her hair like in the bob. I love that her reason, I thought it was going to be that she needed to make friends and that she wanted the social aspect of it because Arata and Taichi were gone. No, it wasn't just that. She was playing track because it would help her to get more stamina and to get more athletic and be able to like last longer in the matches. That's why she's playing track. And then when Taichi realizes that, he's like, oh my God. Oh, she's like, you know what? It'll get me, the pistol starting will get me to react faster. Everything is for karate. Which the crazy thing about it is everything for karate. You would think that you could say that if you were shipping her and Arata, she's doing everything because, you know, she's doing it for the man that taught her to play. But that's not it. Arata inspired her to start playing and helped her find her dream, but she's pursuing her dream for herself. And I think that's going to be one of the big messages of the series, is that she's going to be like to Arata. She's like, I'm not playing for you. I'm playing for me. Like, I want to play so that I can play against you. I want to play so that we can face each other because that'd be freaking cool. But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because I like it. And you just taught me that dream. I just finished Ping Pong, which that series involves a storyline between two characters where one character teaches the other play and the other is a natural prodigy at it and gets really, really good at it. And then the original player is like, oh, this is similar to that, except I wouldn't call Chihaya a prodigy. I wouldn't call her that. She works really hard and she's still like learning. But I do think it's one of those things where whenever you teach someone a passion and they end up really latching onto it, and then in Arata's case, he's not able to follow through and she's like moving in places he can't go to, and he probably feels envious of that. Like with the phone call, you know, spend your entire youth without becoming stronger. And I feel like Taichi in that moment realizes he's like, I probably shouldn't have said that. Because she's kind of proven me wrong in this moment, right? I love it. I love how aggressive she is. I love this one guy she beats. He's like, okay. And then the chocolate sign. So when they said the chocolate sign, I was like, are we going to get the subplot line that Chihaya has like type 1 diabetes and needs some like sugar right now? And it kind of is. She needs to restore her stamina, so they get her some chocolate, right? Which, here's the thing. From Death Note, if you watch Death Note, which came out around the same time as this, you will know that in Death Note, the character L was eating lots of sweets all the time because it's good for your brain. So Death Note got me on board with that theory, and now Chihayafuru is, man, I feel like in the early 2000s, it was just a push from the sweets shops to get free promotion by having these anime talk about the science of eating sugar and brain development and performance. We'll go with that. We'll go with that conspiracy theory. But yeah, I liked the 7-Eleven knockoff where it was the 8. That was really fun. I honestly thought that Taichi was going to meet Arata on the streets. Or here's the thing. I wonder if the girlfriend's going to see him going into Godiva and getting the chocolate, because Godiva is bougie. Godiva is bougie chocolate. I am honestly, I developed a cocoa allergy when I was in junior high, so about 12. So I could not have chocolate anymore because it gives me a massive headache and makes me terribly sick. So it's not a technical allergy, but it's a reaction. So I can't have cocoa. I can have white chocolate because there's no cocoa in it, but I can't have like regular chocolate. None of that. So I know what Godiva chocolate does taste like, and the white chocolate's pretty good, but bougie. But again, in character, we've established that Taichi got money. He can get her the good chocolate. And that's such another layer of how him and Arata are different. Like, would Arata have the money to go get her the Godiva chocolate like Taichi does? It's something. It's something. It's like a damn Victorian literature novel where you have the kind of bougie young man and then the man from the streets, and they're both kind of like maybe crushing on the same girl. I'm just like, yes, give it to me. Love it. Loving it. But yeah, he's like, I'm going to get her the Godiva. I wonder if the girlfriend's going to be like, what's this receipt from Godiva chocolate? And he's like, well, I got it to my childhood friend who needed it for a karate tournament. Is she going to believe that? I will just have to see. Also, the fact that she sleeps with her eyes open. I mean, that is kind of creepy. It's a little creepy, but if Taichi can be okay with her sleeping with her eyes open, then we're good to go. And Arata's like, that's what I like about her. She's got character. Okay, I'm going to be real with you all. I'm going to be real with you Taichi truthers. The Taichi truthers, hear me out. The moment he put his coat over her, I was like, okay. I love the arc of the little shit in grade school that turns out to be the little Prince Charming. I'm here for that trope. You all know that I am. I feel like Taichi is in Zootopia. He's the big fox that was the bully as a kid that comes back to Judy Hopps with the truck. And the strawberries. He's like, I'm sorry, I had a lot of pent up aggression and anger that I had to get sorted out. I feel like it's Judy Hopps and then Arata is like Nick Wilde. I feel like that, and then Taichi is, but that's not giving Taichi enough credit, okay? But it just made me think of that. But this was super sweet when he put the coat on her, and Dr. Harada's watching, so you know he knows that he's just like, this kid, he's got it so bad for Chihaya. I mean, I don't blame him. She's great, but that was super sweet. And then she's like, oh, well, you're really kind. And he's like, oh, well, it's just nobody wants to see your ugly mug. I was like, oh, come on. I'm like, Chihaya being like, you're such a sweetheart. So then she's like, okay. But she looks back at the phone. Here's the thing. We're going to come back to this triangle. Don't you worry. But for now, you have with this, Arata has influenced Chihaya to play the sport. Chihaya influenced Taichi to keep playing the sport, to keep going and not give up. So we have that. We have Arata influencing Chihaya, Chihaya influencing Taichi. Then we have Taichi totally crushing on Chihaya, but we have Chihaya totally crushing on Arata. And if you told me that she wasn't crushing on Arata, she just wanted to get a hold of him as a friend and do things for him as a friend, then I would believe you. I'm fine with that. If we want to say that if you wanted to say that Chihaya has not decided who she's crushing on and she equally is supportive of both Taichi and Arata, I am fine with that. We know for a fact, though, that Taichi is crushing on Chihaya. There is no question in my mind. For sure. But she does friend zone Taichi at the end here, and we're not there yet, but oh man. So yeah. So she's like, well, I'm sorry about forcing you to make this club with me. And I'm glad that Chihaya says that, because she's like, look, I know you don't, she says, I don't think you really want to play with me, but you're just being nice. And she's like, I kind of, feel bad that you're being nice to me, and I kind of forced you to be in here just so that I could keep playing so I could meet Arata. I don't want to do that to you. And she's like, but watch. I love when she says this. I'm going to win, so watch me. That line, oh, if I was Taichi, if I was Arata and a woman said, you just watch me, I'm going to win, just you see, it's over. It'd be done. I'd be like, oh, okay. I do think it was interesting that they chose not to stay inside. They chose to go outdoors to watch, which I don't blame them for going outside, because that room, I'm just picturing how hot and sweaty it would be in there with all those people gathered. Like, it was probably humid and gross in there, and like, let's go sit outside where it's cooler and watch. That's a smart move. I don't blame them. It also works out really good narratively in two ways. One, it makes Taichi have the moment of reflection, literally reflecting against the window, might I add. And then second, it makes for the adorable hug moment that happens after the match is over, which is my favorite moment of the whole episode and will probably be the thumbnail. So there's that. But I loved it to pieces. So, I mean, I almost expected Taichi to come in and cheer her on, but then I was like, no, I like that he stays outside and lets her have her moment. I like that. I think that's really good. I like what this show does, because it's not like the stereotypical, it's not like the guy goes or the girl goes, because, the love interest like roots on the other person and gives them the motivation to win. They're saving that trump card for later. Don't you worry. I'm sure they're saving that card for later. But I like it because it's Taichi having faith in Chihaya and seeing how she can win on her own and be her own person. And it's really wonderful. I freaking love it. And it just shows that she doesn't need outside help to win. She does it on her own. And that was so fun to watch, especially against somebody like Yasuda, who looked like a really tough opponent. Also, he kind of looked like Arata, so there's that Freudian aspect of it. But his card positioning is perfect. Yeah, and then these sexist guys that are assholes in the corner be like, he won't lose to some random high school girl. I can't wait to see how many cards he gets and beats her by. And she's just like, I am within earshot. Here's the thing. She could hear everything they said, I'm sure, because she has great hearing. So she probably heard every single word of that. And she's like, it's like Veronica Corningstone at the beginning of Anchorman. She's like, every place is the same. She literally is the Veronica Corningstone of karate. And I love that for her. Although they've established there's a queen title, so I am sure in this match and in this series, we're going to see her come up against some female players that are going to give her a run for her money. I'm sure that's going to happen. But she has the red card, the card that is hers, the card that's her name, that she cherishes more than anything. So we have this match go down between her and Yasuda. It's really good. I love it. And the way that I like watching how they try to trick each other. I like watching the whole like back and forth with the cards and then positioning the cards and like you trying to get an advantage. I still don't know all the rules exactly for karate and how you win it, except you get down to like the last 2 cards. But I don't want to know for sure yet. I want the show to kind of tell me. Let me figure it out. I'll get there. It's kind of like March and Shogi, I'm sure. I like that Harada has like binoculars when they're right outside the window, which is funny. Although we don't know the exact positioning of the building. They could be well into the building. We just don't know it. But yeah, this guy is going to be easy to break a 15-year-old spirit. Well, joke's on you. Joke's on you because Chihaya, she's fierce. And he's like, I don't want to look her in the eye. Honestly, that's a valuable asset that Chihaya has, is because she's beautiful. And so if these guys are easily swayed, it's like that moment from Memoirs of a Geisha where, the actress Yo, she's like, all you have to do is look at a man and make him stumble with one glance. Like all she has to do is like look up and he falters. Like Chihaya could use that to her advantage if she wanted to. Girl, use them good looks. Make these men stumble. But instead, I like that she uses her prowess and I like that she uses her aggression. She doesn't just rely on her looks to win. And I teach aggressive karate, and the objective is to take cards. And then it's so interesting that Taichi says, but isn't it risky to give the opponent the best card? And he's like, well, that's the one she's always going to win with. So is it risky? I like Taichi bringing that up because we've established his character is tied to being safe and not taking risks. He likes to play it safe and be in that comfort zone. So him questioning this makes all the sense. I love the callback with that. It's amazing. And she's like, I'm going to win, so watch over me. I love as they get down, they keep playing one off over and over again. And they keep passing the card. And he's like, Yasuda's being really stubborn. He doesn't want to let Chihaya have the advantage. And these girls are like, man, she's holding her own against Yasuda. I'm like, that's right. It's great. And I love that I love when she says he's good. Because look, this is giving me all the references this episode, but Chihaya also reminds me of Kagami from Kuroko's Basketball. And without spoiling anything, you find this out very quickly about Kagami. But his character, when he's up against a challenge, he thrives. He loves playing against people that are good because that means that they're loving the game, he's loving the game. And so that spirit, it instantly got me attached to his character in Kuroko's Basketball. And here, her spirit instantly makes me fall even more in love with Chihaya because she's like, I love that he's good. He loves karate as much as I do. So it's going to be so much fun to play him. It's so infectious. That spirit is infectious. I love it. And in that moment with her smiling, I love it. And she can hear it and like hits the cards. And that moment when Taichi puts his hand on the window being like, it looks like you're having fun, Chihaya. Dude, you're fooling no one. And at that moment, I was like, shit, I kind of want to root for him now because he really loves her. And I'm like, oh man. And he's still got a ways to go. But Harada's looking over like, I see how it is. Oh, I love it. He's like, is it because you're the one who's playing? Shut up. Shut up. So yeah, and then there's the final card. And they go after it. And then as they say it, she goes for it and manages to get it. It's so good. And he's like, oh, she won. And then the moment she looks over at the window, I love that she opens up the window and gives Taichi the biggest hug. Oh. And the part that's so awful about this is, here's the thing. Chihaya is a sweetheart. She is not a homewrecker. She knows he has a girlfriend, but they're childhood friends, and she's not viewing it as a romantic gesture. She's just so happy she won. And she's like, look, you're here. We're playing karate. And Taichi's like, yeah, you're here. We're playing karate. And for Taichi, it's like a romantic moment. For her, it's not romantic. It's just friendship. And then you think it's going to be this moment where they're going to celebrate and it's going to bring him closer, and it does. But then she's like, let's call Arata and tell him. And the look on Taichi's face when he's like, oh, she's like, let's play. We'll improve together. And of course, Taichi in that moment, like, so she says, let's play and improve together. And he has a blushy face. It's like, of course he wants to play with her because he's like, yeah, we'll improve together and we'll develop our relationship and we'll get closer together. And you think it's going to be this big romantic moment. And then she goes, hey, I need to step outside. And she's like, stay right here. And she's like, let me call Arata. And the look on his face when she says, it's okay for me to call Arata now, right? And he's just like, what? And she's like, oh, well, I have to tell him I made class A. And when she starts calling him and she looks like she wants to talk to him so bad, Arata just looks crushed. Or not Arata, but Taichi just looks crushed. Taichi's like, shit. I thought we were doing it just the two of us, but yeah, I have a girlfriend and you have a crush on Arata, so shit. I feel so bad for him. He just got friend zoned so hard. But here's the thing. And he just looks kind of sad in the moment. She calls Arata and we see his house. And it doesn't look like, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm judging hardcore and I'm profiling. It doesn't look like the most elaborate of houses, but it's dark outside, so maybe that's not, maybe that's it. They do have a landline, though. Again, so 2007, we have a landline. And she's like, come on, Arata, guess what? And then he shows up like they're calling in the middle of the night, And then she's like, this is Wataya. And she's like, it's Chihaya, Ayase Chihaya, and Taichi's here. He made class A today, and I worked so hard. There's so many things. Taichi and I are at the same high school. And he got himself a girlfriend who calls him Takun. I mean, she doesn't even care about him, like, crushing on her. She's like, he's got a girlfriend. Isn't that great? But she's like, can you believe it? And Dr. Harada's doing great. Oh, I feel so bad because you can tell that she's like, I have to tell you, Arata. I feel so bad. Ugh. Because she's so happy in that moment. And she wants to talk to him. And in that moment, she says, how strong are you now? That was the question you probably should not have asked. Because I'm sure that he was okay in that moment, like happy to hear from her. But when she asked, how strong are you now? If he's not been able to play, that's like the ultimate ice dagger in his heart. And you could just see, like, it does the classic anime. You can see the glasses but on his eyes. And then that's when he says to her that he wants her to stop and not call her. And yeah, and so we see there's like a bag there. He's like, sorry, but don't call me again. So it says Grand Royale Tack Boss. I don't know if that's just a shirt. He's like, I stopped playing karate. Oh, and then he hangs up. So I don't know if Taichi heard any of that. And he's like, what did Arata say? And then she's just like, oh, like it was less than a minute. It was like 49 seconds. And she thinks back to his dream of becoming a karate master and how far from that he is. And like all the things he said to her and how serious he was and into it and passionate he was. And how that's not the case anymore. So, Chihaya's probably going to give up on him and never speak to him again. No, that's not what's going to happen. She's going to be like, I thought the three of us would be reunited. Oh, I thought we would never change. It's so sad because, yeah, I mean, that's the hard part about growing up is that sometimes people's dreams do change and their lives do change. But I think deep down, Arata still wants to play karate and become a master, but all the circumstances around him have prevented that from happening. And now it's Taichi. And again, I think that there is a deeper discussion about classism in this series because, Arata's out here who possibly has to go work for a living and support his family. And then you got Chihaya and Taichi, who's from bougie parents who can afford to let them go out and do whatever. So I feel like there's a minor class discussion here that could come up later. We'll see how that goes. But here's the thing. So the rest of this pyramid that we got, the rest of this pyramid scheme, this love triangle here. So we know Taichi's crushed on Chihaya. Chihaya, was she crushing on Arata? Was she just wanting to play with the person that inspired her? Does she even realize she's crushing on anybody? I don't know. I put a question mark. Taichi's the only one that we know we're like, yes, he is crushing hardcore and getting friend zoned horribly. But she is influenced by Arata, and she wants to pay that back and play with him. Does she crush on Arata? I think she kind of subconsciously does, but I don't think she outwardly does, right? And her and Taichi are just friends right now. But then there's this like, what is Arata crushing on anybody? It would be funny. It would be funny if Arata was crushing on Taichi and it just completed the triangle. That would be funny, be humorous, but I don't think so. Do we think Arata might be crushing on Chihaya? I think he was back in the day, but I think he's had this hard dose of reality that's made him kind of steer away from that. So then the question is, well, where does Arata and Taichi cross together? Here's my theory. This is my theory for later that I think is going to happen. Back in episode 2, Taichi stole Arata's glasses because Taichi did not think he could beat Arata otherwise. And he stole the glasses, and then Chihaya had to step in and finish the match between them. I think by the end of this series, what is going to happen is that I think Taichi's going to keep playing with Chihaya because he's not going to let her down. He knows how much this means to her, and he genuinely likes the sport. And now that he knows Arata ain't playing anymore, he's probably like, well, remember that goal I thought I couldn't achieve? Might be a possibility. So I think he's going to keep playing with Chihaya. But here's what I think is going to happen in the whole grand scheme of things. I don't know who she's going to end up with. I don't know. She may end up with neither of them. Honestly, she may end up with neither of them. She might be like, you boys are just my friends. Nothing else. But I don't know if this is going to have like a fruits basket ending where she has to pick one or the other or how that's going to work. But what I do think is going to happen is that Taichi's going to keep playing with her and he's going to get better and better. And then when Arata shows up, Taichi is going to influence Arata. I think Taichi is going to be the influence to Arata to get him to play again. I think that's going to be the case. Because I think that Taichi, you know what I think he's going to do? I think that he's going to get so pissed off about being friend zoned and realize that she likes Arata and he's going to get pissed off by it because he's like, well, screw this. I think he's going to go up to Arata at some point and be like, look, you inspired her to play. She loves you and you gave up on it. I'm working my ass off. So if you're not going to step up to the plate, then I'm going to keep working and damn it, I'm going to be the person that keeps inspiring her. You may have started the inspiration, but I'm going to continue it and go from there. I don't think he's going to stay with his girlfriend, though. I think they're going to have an unfortunate case of breaking up conveniently so that he can go after Chihaya. And you know what? I'm all for it. You could go either way with this series. You could go 3 different ways. You could either have Chihaya end up with neither of them and they are both just her best friends and she's like, I love you both as friends and as brothers, and she goes off and finds somebody else to date that we've not met yet in the series. You could do that. Or she could have started with her first crush, which was Arata, the guy that got her into it all, and she ends up with him after all is said and done, and Taichi ends up being the friend that helps her get to that point to be with him and helps inspire him to come back to her and all that jazz. Or you could have it to where Arata, they both influence Arata to get back in the game, but in the end, Taichi wins her over. I'm up for all 3 of these scenarios, if I'm being honest now. I'm up for all 3 of these scenarios because I think that they're all great. So yeah, I am in love with this show. I absolutely adore it. It's amazing. The love triangle is perfect. It's just, Taichi won me over this episode. Taichi won me over. I feel so bad for him because he has been friend zoned. I feel horrible for him. Here's the thing. I'm rooting for all 3 of them in different ways. I'm rooting for Arata to be able to get back into karate because that's his passion, and I'm sad that he seems like so distraught from it. So I'm rooting for Arata to get back into the game. I'm rooting for Chihaya to reach her dream of becoming queen of Japan and to be the top player and to achieve something for herself. I'm rooting for that. And I'm rooting for Taichi to find, you know what? Yeah. Oh, damn. Arata could get his passion back for karate and become a master. Taichi could gain his self-respect, but also I'm kind of rooting for Taichi a little bit to date Chihaya. I'm kind of rooting for him inadvertently. And that may change and go round and round like a damn merry-go-round. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that happens. But this is a love triangle that I'm kind of rooting for all three of them now. And Taichi won me over this episode, so good for you, Taichi. But I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in episode 5. I've got to be gone for like a week and a half. So hopefully by that point, I will have comments to read. So that'll be exciting. So keep them coming. And I'm going to keep reading them. But in the meantime, I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back real soon with more of Chihayafuru.